Well, there it is, the new Freedom Tower. This is William Friedman from the Cross Country Local, and I intended to post this to Periscope, but for some reason there's not enough bandwidth. I mean, here we are in one of the most densely populated, densely media saturated spots in the world, and I've got 5 bars of Verizon, I've got my MiFi jetpack, and I still can't post to the internet because that's what everyone else is doing. So anyway, this is the first stop on the Cross Country Local, and kind of a sad one. I was on business travel on 9/11. I'd flown into Raleigh-Durham the night before, so I wasn't on one of the planes that was forced to land suddenly, but that was just a few hours after I landed, overnight. I had to drive back home to New York on the rental car I had. So it's like 700 miles. I remember going over the Verrazano Bridge and seeing the mushroom clouds. This was 9/11 was a Tuesday. This was on Friday. My wife was 8.5 months pregnant, and I told her on Tuesday, screw work, I'm coming home. And she said, don't even bother to try. There's all around the 5 boroughs, there's National Guard troops with M16s that are stopping anyone trying to get in. So I had to kind of quite literally wait for the dust to clear. Lost a fraternity brother on that day, someone who I was not in contact with. But Adam Ruhalter from Cantor Fitzgerald and I went to Hofstra University together. This is the footprint of the North Tower. I believe this is where Windows on the World was. I remember taking my wife dancing there probably no more than a couple of years before it went crashing 1,300 feet into the pit. And this is my first time back actually visiting and paying my respects. Of course, the reason I'm here is because this is where the New York subway hooks up to the PATH train service. And despite all the devastation, the PATH stop, I don't think ever stopped working, or only briefly. And all the time that the Freedom Tower was under construction, the PATH station was open, and I would commute from Long Island to New Jersey for a client in Jersey City, and I took the PATH train, and I went under this spot every day for a while. It's devastating. Might be difficult. I mean, we think of this as a national tragedy, of course, but I think people across the country lose track of just how much of a New York story this was. And I guess, you don't want to hear about it, but New York for some of us isn't this symbol or this, destination, or this place you're going to go on your bucket list. For a lot of us, for millions of us, this is our hometown. Imagine if someone blew up your downtown. That's how we feel. We lost people. Right before 9/11, I told you my wife was 8.5 months pregnant. Our son was born just a couple of weeks after 9/11, He just celebrated his 14th birthday. And his name is John Liberty Friedman. His older brother, James, had just turned 2, or was about to turn 2. He wasn't quite 2 years old when the attacks occurred. And he said his first sentence that day, "Mommy crying." Anyway, just a few days after John was born, we moved from our apartment into the house we're in now, out in the suburbs. And when we moved in, for weeks after we moved in, there were cars parked around the Long Island Railroad station that had been there for weeks, and no one had the heart to tow them away because everyone knew that their owners were never going to be coming back for them. There were like 7 or 8 people from our community of West Hempstead who died that day in the towers. And every small town, every neighborhood surrounding New York and throughout New York has got the same memorial with the same piece of World Trade Center steel in the middle of it. And just an incredible tragedy. As you might or might not know, I'm not from New York originally, which is why I talk normal. I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I never really considered myself a New Yorker. I mean, I've been living here for years. I went to college here, and then moved around a lot, and then settled here, and my wife and I and our kids living in an apartment in Queens. And I never called myself a New Yorker. I'd say I live in New York, or we're living in New York now, or just things to that effect. But the words "I'm a New Yorker" never came out of my mouth until the day after the attacks, when I saw the grace and courage with which my neighbors faced the most unimaginable adversity. And from that day forward, I've called myself a New Yorker. All right, enough self-indulgent, maudlin stuff. Again, of course, hearts and prayers go out to the survivors, and pretty much everyone here in New York considers themselves a survivor. We've all lost somebody, or somebody we know has lost somebody, or somebody we know had a very, very narrow escape. I had 2 friends who were working in the buildings, in the towers. One of them had recently lost his wife to cancer and was a single parent, and he was in the South Tower when the North Tower was attacked. The South Tower was there was a call for an evacuation, and then people were told to go back to their desks. But my friend had the sense to just keep heading down to the lobby, because he knew that if anything happened to him, his son would be an orphan, and he wasn't going to have that. Another friend had dropped his kid off at kindergarten, and that was usually his wife's job. But his daughter said, "No, today I want Daddy to take me to school." So Daddy got pressed to go into school, and then Daddy had forgotten her lunch and had to go back and get her lunch and bring it to the school, which made him like 10-15 minutes late for work. He gets out of the subway station, looks up, and sees the fire pouring out of his office window, and that's why he's alive now. And I have another friend who was at the Pentagon. His story is that it was actually his office that Zaid Jarrah flew the plane into. But one of the reasons why there wasn't so much loss of life at the Pentagon is that those offices had been vacant because they were being refurbished. They were putting in new furnishings, new cubicles like that, and he and his team were actually in trailers across the parking lot, and they were all set to move back into their offices, I think, the next week. But that's clearly not what happened. But in the meantime, he was safe. He heard the plane going overhead. His friends who were on a smoke break at the time actually saw it happen. So you know, conspiracy theorists, you know, take it up with me. Take it up with anyone on this block. Anyway, here's the PATH train entrance. I am going to find a place where I can grab some lunch and some Wi-Fi, and I will see you on the route.